Alrighty friends, the video is finally here. The hype and energy of Comic-Con has finally subsided. I have not unpacked my bag just yet, but I did promise you guys I would make a video breaking down all of the Doom / Tony Stark instances in comics, or at least a few of them that could kind of help us bridge this gap between the RDJ announcement and how Doctor Doom could fit into the MCU. But before I do that, I do want to say there are a lot of videos out there. My friend Koi just dropped a really detailed video that I do want to pop here because there's a lot of good insight. This is a really in-depth watch. If you have the opportunity to do so, I'm plugging that here. Now, my video is going to have a little bit of a different take because yes, I will talk about those comics in my version, in my digestible way that might entice you guys to read those, but I also want to start off talking about me and how I felt hearing that news as a cosplayer and as a woman of color. There's a few things with that announcement that I think are important to talk about in why I felt the way I felt and why I post the way I posted and why it took me so long to make this video in general. Then I'm going to talk about all of those comics that Doctor Doom and Iron Man kind of merged together in. And then finally, I'm going to do a quick where I think the MCU is going to take Doctor Doom in the future, or at least what makes sense with the characters that we have at hand, and even adding a few characters into it to kind of bridge that connection a little bit more. So just right off the bat, my first impressions on hearing the news, I was actually in the new Hellboy panel at Comic-Con, trying to get video footage and posting all of those videos onto the Geek platform as the announcements were rolling out. So I was on my phone, but I could not emote or express or do what I normally would do. But when those announcements hit, my immediate reaction hasn't really changed. It's kind of just been disappointment. There was, and it's not a bittersweet disappointment, there really was no sweet. It kind of was just like a visceral, like that emoji, just, that was me. And my reasons behind that are kind of what everyone has been lamenting. It feels lazy. And for a lot of people, that's a cop-out now. Now you've got, you know, the really deep comic nerds or the really deep movie nerds that are like, that's such a lame excuse. And that's fine. That can be my lame excuse. But as an actor, I feel like we kind of let down a lot of actors who would have been great in the MCU. And for me, it does take away the impact that was Tony Stark's death. Tony Stark and RDJ wasn't a small, minute character. There's a lot of arguments going around or comparisons to Chris Evans playing the Fox version of Johnny Storm, and then he plays Captain America, or even if you've watched Deadpool and Wolverine, spoiler alert if you haven't, him coming up again. Or even I brought up to a couple of friends who I guess either forgot the reference or didn't know the reference, Gemma Chan, though one was heavy in makeup and prosthetics and the other one is an Eternal. Even that, I feel like, is a better example because those are a lot more recent, and there have been a few other characters who have played multiple characters in the MCU, but there has never been a character who has held the MCU on their back, other than Blade, but we haven't gotten Blade just yet. But having Iron Man, I mean, Tony Stark built it in a cave with a box of scraps. And now it just feels like to me the MCU doesn't trust its audience. It just makes me feel like bringing back the Russo brothers and RDJ is an inappropriate Hail Mary, and it makes it seem like they don't trust us as audience members or as intellectual viewers of cinema. That we need these gimmicks or we need these big showstoppers in order to stay entertained, when really all we need is dynamic storytelling. That's what's going to keep us going, and I feel like they threw that away for this, I don't know, this big reveal. Not to mention, this big reveal would have been better if we would have seen it in the movie. I think that would have been the word of mouth of seeing the mask come off in the Fantastic Four, and lo and behold, it's RDJ back. Even that would have been better, because then we still would have had the magic of cinema and the magic of the word of mouth to spread that message along. I digress. I could keep talking about that for a really long time, but that's not the only point. The other point that I do want to get at is the representation. Again, as a woman of color, as a cosplayer, something that we take very seriously in the cosplay world is representation. Right now, Disney only has a few Romani characters: Esmeralda, Quasimodo, I forget the jester's name in that same franchise. Madame Leota is also Romani, but the only character of note in the Marvel Cinematic Universe who is Romani is Doctor Doom. And I gotta consult Google really. I just want to make sure, because I don't want to, what is Tony Stark? One second. Alrighty, after consulting my notes, RDJ is Lithuanian, he's Hungarian Jewish, but upon looking on his rap sheet, that is a white man. That is a white man. Yeah, so it just adds to the frustration of this stunt casting, of this Hail Mary casting, that they took away a brilliant and beautiful role from a Romani actor that would have done this role justice, that would have done just as great a job, because we would have had to rely on the storytelling and the character actors all working together to build this new world rather than going backwards. This is supposed to be the new MCU. This is phase, what, 17 that we're on right now? And instead we're going back to phase 1? I could understand if they said they were going back to the basics, but they're not. Because RDJ isn't cast as Tony Stark. He is cast as Doctor Doom, another major player in this world. It just doesn't make sense. And I feel like the only people that are super duper hype are like my rationality, and I'm sure, I know I'm gonna get throttled in these comments by a particular section of people. That being said, I just don't understand the joy beyond loving RDJ. That's really the only thing that I can see. If you truly love Robert Downey Jr., fine, I get it. You're gonna be happy no matter what. And honestly, I trust that no matter what happens, I'm gonna enjoy it. Because for me, I can separate the casting from the storytelling or from the acting that a character does. Like, I know that Robert Downey Jr., the Oscar-winning Robert Downey Jr., is going to give me a glorious performance in this role of Doctor Doom, but I still can be upset about the casting. I can separate those two ideas. I can separate the fact that this is not the right casting in my mind, in my opinion, but I can understand that and still know that Robert Downey Jr. is going to give a great performance for Doctor Doom. Two things can be true. So that was like 10 minutes of just ranting. I'm glad I got that off my chest though, as I'm screaming at a phone and no one else. But that being said, those are kind of the big thoughts and the big understandings for where we are. Do with that what you will, but let's get into the comics now. Let me preface, I was a-searching for you guys, and I really couldn't find any Tonys turning into Doctor Doom unless they were brain swap, because that's really the big idea is, are there any Iron Man becomes Doctor Doom? And yish, kind of, but only in brain swapping. It really always was Doctor Doom that turned into Tony for various reasons or another, and really it's because of his honor and glory and how amazing Iron Man is. Why couldn't we just leave Iron Man alone? All right, I'm putting my, this is supposed to be just the facts. Here are the top 3 that I kind of want to talk about. And again, these have been plastered everywhere. This is just my version in discussing this in a digestible way. So you don't have to read a whole bunch or go and read it. If this entices you to read it, great. These are great comics, but let's get into it. So starting off with Infamous Iron Man, this one I did put in my stories if you caught it, but honestly, it's a really sweet and simple comic, or at least the part that we're going to talk about. Essentially, Tony Stark Iron Man perished in Civil War II. I'm not going to get into that because that would take a whole one of these videos just to break down everything that got us into Civil War II, and the ending of Civil War II. That's a whole nother story in and of itself. But essentially, Victor Von Doom felt like the world needed Tony Stark. They needed that symbol of hope and heroism, and so he decided to take himself over to Tony's house, where he saw an AI version of Tony Stark that Tony built before he died, and was like, wow, look at that thing that you did. You did it. You built the thing that you... Anyway, can you move out the way because I'm going to steal one of your suits? And the AI obviously is like, no, don't do that. But like, what am I going to do? I'm AI. And so Victor Von Doom ends up stealing the suit and becomes Iron Man because he feels like that's what the world needs in order to carry on. It doesn't work out well in the way that he wants to, but you're gonna have to read that to really understand. And honestly, I sincerely hope that none of these comic books that I talk about come to pass. I really want us to just leave Iron Man where he is and give him that tribute of death that he deserves. You know, all of those years that RDJ put into Iron Man, I really hope that we don't wipe that away and just use Doom as a platform for him to become Iron Man again. Them's my hopes, especially because we have Ironheart. Why build up Ironheart? Just anyway, comic 2. So the second one is Marvel Team Up, and if you're someone who can't really keep up with a lot of storylines, this one may not be for you, considering it's Marvel Team Up and everybody's in this one. But essentially the storyline, or at least the parts that matter for us, is that Wolverine and Spidey are off doing their own thing with Paul Patterson. There's a whole side quest there. But while they're off battling in Latveria, a mysterious force that looks like Doctor Doom manifests out of nowhere. Back at the Fantastic Four, Johnny has just been pranked by Ben and is literally about to start attacking him when, out of nowhere, this Doctor Doom character appears out of nowhere, and it's very clear that he's trying to find Richard. Doctor Strange, who sensed a disturbance in the Force, with Wong show up, and together the Fantastic Four and Doctor Strange are all fighting Doctor Doom. They get a hold of him just for a little bit until his mask is revealed, and we see that it's actually Tony Stark. We discover that he was exiled from his dimension by their Reed Richards, and is now on a vengeance. He's trying to, like, get back at him for doing that. But unfortunately, the Fantastic Four are defeated, and the only way to stop him is for Doctor Strange to entrap him. So obviously that one is more likely, considering the connections between the Fantastic Four and Doctor Doom, and it's got that alternate reality in there as well. The mixture is mixin', so that one is a very easy one for them to kind of pull, and we already know that this is a different reality Doom. We already know that the Fantastic Four are in a different time, like back in the past, in the 50s, I think, so the mixture can be a mixed. Number 3 gets a little chaotic. I'm going to try to keep the names straight, but the Watcher honestly goes crazy with this one. Tony Stark and Victor Von Doom are college roommates, but they immediately disliked each other. Tony was a party animal, and Doom was an absolute genius. Doom soon realized Tony's brilliance and roped him into a secret project to enhance telekinetic powers with brain-modifying machines. However, Doom actually used the machine to swap their minds. So, Tony, now in Doom's body, has amnesia and struggles to reclaim his life, while Doom, in Tony's body, returned home, arranged for his daddy's death, and took over Stark Industries, becoming even more powerful and absolutely ruthless. Now, years later, Doom, aka Tony, earned a PhD and founded a tech company to help people worldwide, while Tony, aka Doom, learned about this and donning a green and white battlesuit, set out to steal Doom's working arc reactor. Doom, hearing of this, puts on a gold rescue armor with a red cloak and fought back. But despite his armor lacking weapons, Doom mimicked Stark's brainwaves and detonated Stark's rockets, defeating him. Stark revealed their mind swap and offered to switch back, but Victor Von Doom refused because Tony Stark's name had become synonymous with greed and cruelty, while Doom maintained his honor and was well respected. So obviously, he would not switch back. So again, those are 3 comic book stories that would be cute, but honestly don't matter. They don't matter, because Tony Stark is not becoming Doctor Doom, and Doom is not becoming Tony Stark. The actor is just playing both characters. Like, it's just the actor. There's no like mixing of the 2 worlds. And so, what is your argument, people? What is it? It's just lazy casting. I know you guys are trying to find redemptions in the comics, but there is no rationality. It's not, there have never been comics of one actor portraying another character in the Marvel Universe. It just is, guys. It just is. And it's really, anyway. I did say I was going to tell one possible storyline, and honestly, a lot of this knowledge comes from my good buddy, Stella, who already made a short about Valeria Richards, so this is kind of summarizing that in a nice little web. In 2002's Fantastic Four number 54, Sue Richards, because she's not Sue Storm anymore, she's Sue Richards at this point, is struggling with childbirth. Lo and behold, who can help us? I think Reed Richards is like stuck somewhere at this time, but lo and behold, who can help us but Victor Von Doom? But he has 2 conditions in order to help. Number 1, the joy of knowing that he can help when Reed Richards is nowhere to be found. Such an asshole. But yeah, so it's the glory of knowing that he could do something that Reed Richards could not. That was number one. And number two is getting to name the child after she was born. And honestly, Sue and Richard they just wanted their child out safe and healthy. And so they were like, literally, duh, just go ahead. And out comes Valeria Richards. Interestingly enough, though, when he delivered Valeria Richards, he didn't just deliver the baby, but he kind of put a little bit of his own essence into the baby to act as an eye or a shadow or, literally an eye, so he could look through her eyes. It was a whole weird Uncle Sam or Uncle Doom thing. He did use Valeria Richards in order to see through her eyes and used her almost as a familiar, if you will. But Valeria Richards loved her uncle, loved him so much that she ended up even living with him at a time. Valeria Richards in herself doesn't have abilities, but she is incredibly brilliant. So much so that her intelligence was far superior than her father's by the time she was a teenager. And it was her intelligence that brought the two even closer. So all that to be said, Doctor Doom has been announced, the Fantastic Four has also been announced, but they've all been announced in a prior decade, so they're back in the past. So when bringing them up to the present, where our new heroes are, where our Kate Bishops, where our Kamala Khans, where our Tom Holland Spider-Mans are, if we're bringing all of them up to present day, it would make sense for them to have all of their children. Perhaps when/if we do escalate the Fantastic Four and Doctor Doom all the way up to today's time period, we will see the Fantastic Four with their fantastic children, and perhaps we'll even see Valeria Richards, who, at a certain point, does eventually don the mask of Doctor Doom. And thus, we have a full circle. Alrighty friends, this video is long enough as it is. Again, there is so much information out there on Doctor Doom. This was just my personal take on this issue, to be there right as these announcements were happening and got to sit with it for just a little bit. Let me know if there's more that you guys want me to talk about. If you want me to do a video on Civil War II, please let me know that down below too. And if there's any other videos you guys want me to talk about or to give my personal take on, I'm probably going to do it anyway, but it's good to know what you guys are thinking and what you guys are wanting. Until then, make sure you like, subscribe, and follow, and I will see you guys for the next video. Bye.